Hey everybody, it's Mr. Hasquin, and I'm back for more things that you should know by being alive. And today I want to talk about another one of the more obscure founding fathers. He kind of gets overlooked, but he did one of the most important things in the Second Continental Congress, and this is Richard Henry Lee. He's he's responsible for offering the resolution for independence that led to the creation of the Declaration of Independence. And I want to talk about his leadership, the Lee resolution that he proposed, and his role in declaring independence from Britain. Richard Henry Lee was born in 1732, and he was a Virginia statesman from a very powerful family, and he was an early, unwavering advocate for independence. He was known especially for his oratory skills, a commitment to liberty, and also local governance. And he had a great deal of political courage where other people often hesitated. In May 1775, the Second Continental Congress was convened in Philadelphia following, the events that took place at Lexington and Concord up in Massachusetts. Well, the Continental Congress is going to take place regardless, but it's in the shadow of those two battles. And the events at Lexington and Concord definitely impacted the way the Second Continental Congress opened. Delegates were split. Some wanted reconciliation with Britain, like John Dickinson, and others, like Lee and also John Adams, believed independence was the only path forward. It's like, yep, that's it. We're on this. We're like a train on a track. Well, they probably didn't have trains, but they're going to this destination and they don't have any way of getting off. And in the winter and spring of 1775 and 1776, the mood in the colonies was shifting due to the continued fighting with British troops, and then the publication of Thomas Paine's pamphlet, Common Sense. It was put out in January of 1776, and it began to sway public opinion towards independence. Now, if you ever have the opportunity to read it, it's not light reading. It can be a bit of a chore. And so, while I encourage, to do it for academic purposes, I wouldn't do it for pleasure. Paine, he can be somebody to work your way through, that's for sure. And the public is beginning to swing towards that independence movement. And so Lee and Adams are working on building support among more hesitant delegates in the Second Continental Congress. They kind of, coordinate behind the scenes to eventually prepare to call for a formal call for independence. So in May of 76, then, the Virginia Convention, the state back home, instructed its delegates to propose independence. Like, this is something that we as a colony / state, how it's in that transition, right? We want you to do this. And so Lee, as a Virginia delegate, was like, you know what? This is an official instruction from our government. I have the authority to formally propose independence on behalf of my colony, on behalf of Virginia. And so on June 7th of 1776, Richard Henry Lee rose in Independence Hall, and he offered what became known as the Lee Resolution. And the Lee Resolution stated, resolved, that these united colonies are and of right ought to be free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved. That will eventually end up word for word in the final portion, the final section of the Declaration of Independence. This resolution also called for forming foreign alliances and creating a confederation for mutual security and governance of these new independent states. This was the first formal proposal for independence in Congress. And this forced delegates basically, pick a side, guys. We're debating independence directly. We are staring this down now. And many of the delegates that wanted independence had some concerns. They're worried about dividing the colonies without unanimous support. Unanimity was going to be paramount. The need for foreign alliances was a big deal. France was going to have to really be there for them. And so Congress decided to delay the vote for 3 weeks. This would allow the colonies to debate and align their own legislatures in support of independence. So you got to get, the folks back home to get their input. And meanwhile, a committee of 5, Jefferson, John Adams, Ben Franklin, Roger Sherman, and Robert Livingston, was appointed to draft a declaration explaining independence to the world at large. And so on July 2nd of 1776, Congress voted in favor of the Lee Resolution, officially declaring independence from Britain. And in my John Adams video I did earlier today, John Adams wrote to his wife Abigail, "The 2nd day of July, 1776 will be the most memorable epoch in the history of America." And then 2 days later, on July 4th, Congress adopted the Declaration of Independence to explain the reasons that compelled them to the separation that were made, that decision made on July 2nd. So, after proposing independence, Lee returned home to Virginia to care for his ailing wife. He missed the July 4th signing. He later signed the Articles of Confederation. He served as president of the Confederation Congress under the Articles of Confederation, and he advocated for a Bill of Rights during the debate over the Constitution. He became an anti-federalist because of the absence of a Bill of Rights. Richard Henry Lee's courage and clarity in proposing independence turned talk into action. He effectively, he cast that spark leading to the formal birth of the United States. He is a distant cousin to the traitor Robert E. Lee, by the way. Like, comment, follow, share for more things that you should know by being alive, because understanding Lee's role shows how independence was declared, not by accident, but through courageous voices that demanded freedom. Thanks for watching.